Alrighty, we are back. The All 32 pod. Mike Giardi, Will Parkinson. Week 1 almost in the books. We will preview that Jets 49ers game that will happen tonight. I know somebody in this split screen here is very much looking forward to the game, but obviously a great Week 1, especially Will. Those early windows were phenomenal.
Yeah, it's so nice to be back. I know we talked about this a little bit on Friday, but being able to talk about real games, being able to break down some of what we saw and real implications. First 1 o'clock Sunday, the Octo Box hit, and we saw Witching Hour with Scott Hansen. It was fantastic. Some upsets, some big time comebacks. A lot to get into today. We'll try to keep it short and sweet for the people.
Yeah, and you labored through a power failure. Cable went out on you.
Horrible.
You still watch the games. A reminder to you guys: this show is brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. And Game Time, best tickets, best prices to get you in to see any event you want to see. We use them both. We love them both. I might have won some money this weekend. I'm just saying. So good for us. I want to start, though. We spent so much time. There are 5 quarterbacks drafted in the first round. We know Drake Maye not starting right away. J.J. McCarthy done for the season with a meniscus tear. But in general, for Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Bo Nix, it wasn't very good. Looking up the numbers, Caleb was 14 of 29 for 93 yards. That's 3.2 yards per attempt. That's pretty hideous. Bo Nix threw 42 times, 138 yards passing, 3.3 yards per attempt in a loss. And then Jaden Daniels, 184 passing, 88 rushing, 7.7 per attempt. So there were some things there, but that was a lopsided game as well as he lost. So the only quarterback of the 3 to win was Caleb, and it wasn't because of the offense, Will.
Yeah, I'll start, kind of in the same order you did. I thought Caleb had a few plays that you saw the athleticism. He had 1 first down pickup with his legs. That was like, yep. He had made a really nice juke move in the open field, picked up a first down. Look, the Bears are a team that, defensively, special teams are going to have to win early. I think they're just ironing out some kinks. Caleb getting used to the game. I thought the pass rush, he held the ball for a while. I didn't think the Bears' offensive line covered themselves in glory by any means. I thought Keenan Allen looked a lot like, unfortunately, Keenan Allen we were a little bit concerned about. He looked like banged up on one of Caleb's probably best throws of the day. Wasn't able to get that kind of deep ball down in the end zone. Caleb wasn't great. Like, I don't think he would tell you he was great. They won the game. I think it's getting the nerves out. Now it's like 1-0. So much pressure on him. I feel like he was trying to go out there and be a hero. And I talked a lot about on Friday's pod. Mm-hmm. Don't let Caleb, let it try to tame him early on, and then let him, as the season goes on, open up some of those things. So that was a bit disappointing. I think it was good for the Bears to get a win. I just felt like, home game, easier team on the schedule. I don't know if they did enough to get him kind of going, and felt like he kind of struggled a bit early. Jaden Daniels was weird. First play of his NFL career, really lazy. Just, I don't know what he thought. It was too cool for school. Throws the ball 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It was like, oh, that was ugly.
Whoops. Yeah.
Used his legs well. Put your helmet on, man. Not to be like a boomer here, but like they talked about in the broadcast, it cost him a touchdown. It cost him a touchdown early in the game or later in the game. Again, doesn't matter, but for future reference, like if you lose your helmet during a play, the play's blown dead. So he lost it multiple times. It's not strapped up. I get it. We've all been there. We all thought Michael Vick was the coolest player in the world, but he's the one strap off. But Jane, I thought, made some nice plays. Washington, I think, is properly what we thought. It's going to be a bit of a mess. Mm-hmm. But again, the ability to use his feet and his arm, 268 or so yards, I believe. So we'll see there again, something to build on. The next one was a very Drew Brees at the end-esque, where it's like everything's around the line of scrimmage, short stuff, kind of what he was a lot in college at points. There was a few decisions, some got picked off, some didn't, that I know in Seattle, Mike McDonald's defense, Seattle looked really weird on the offensive side of the football, but that's a conversation for, another day. I felt like with Bo, it was a bit of the issues that all these guys' issues kind of surfaced themselves a little bit. Jaden kind of LSU's a lot of slot fades and using his legs, and where he did that, he was good. Otherwise, it was a bit off. Bo Nix was a lot around the 4 or 5 attempts, over 20 yards or 10 yards or whatever it was. 2 of them were picked off. One of them, Adam Archuleta, credit to him, he released the ball. I was like, oh no. It was comical. So again, good for Caleb to get a win. The other 2 teams, really hard matchups week 1 in Seattle, in Tampa Bay. But, you understand why teams like these quarterbacks sit now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, CJ Stroud is kind of a one of one. He's not the norm here. That's the anomaly to what's happened. I'll go to the game that obviously I don't think anybody outside of the people on social media who have Patriots logo or whatnot as their picture and not themselves.
Drake Maye 03225.
Yeah, Pats fan 1992, whatever it is. I don't think anybody, obviously the odds makers certainly didn't think the line was at 8.5. I think it fell down to 7.5. The Patriots go in there and they win the football game. And look, it was eerily reminiscent of a Bill Belichick coach team, even though Bill is no longer here. And I'm not talking about the most recent version of Bill Belichick we saw, because they were a hot mess those last few years. And that's why he, in part, is no longer here. It was fundamentally sound. Do not beat yourself. Again, they used to say it all the time, Belichick, you teach them how not to lose before you worry about how to win. They did that yesterday. They didn't turn the ball over. They did turn over the Bengals. The Bengals gave them some gifts, but it was one of those games where I was like, man, for the first time in at least a couple of years, I felt like I watched a competently coached, well-organized football team. And I don't know if this is something that continues to carry on or if they found the right opponent in the right week with the Bengals. But, Will, it was encouraging, and it certainly gives them, as I wrote yesterday for Boston Sports Journal, Jacoby Brissett, you saw why he was a starter. Why they named him the starter. He managed the football game. He was very smart. A couple times he put the ball in harm's way.
Yeah, but one risk with Geno Stone in the end zone.
Yep. But mostly just take care of the football. He used his legs actually effectively, ran for 4 first downs, 3 on third down situations. But you also saw why he's not the long-term quarterback. And I mean, even like we could be talking 3 or 4 weeks from now, depending on Drake's development, because he threw for 121 yards. They didn't even attempt to push the ball down the field. And some of that, again, still relates to the offensive line. Chukwuekorfor got 13 snaps before he was benched at left tackle, and they brought in Vidarian Lowe, who hadn't had a full practice since August 21st, to come back in there and try to calm things down. Didn't really calm things down that much. Trey Hendrickson was in the backfield quite a bit, but Brissett was smart, stepped up and did those things. But it's like there are moments. There was one late in the game where Tyquan Thornton got past the defense. There was some pressure. Brissett stepped up. He didn't keep his eyes upfield. If he did, it was an easy touchdown. Instead, he tucked and ran. And again, it's the safe play, but that's the play that Drake's going to be the playmaker and air it out. So you'll live with some of the mistakes he makes. But it was interesting to sort of contrast how the game went and why it was great. But then you can, to get that first win under Mayo, but you can also see like this is not a sustainable way to play offense, the way they did.
Yeah, the one thing I think I hit on like 900 times on Friday's pod was who's Gerard Mayo and what kind of coach team is this going to be? And
yep.
I think that the two biggest things for the Patriots again this season, we talked so much about this in our season preview. Who's the coach? What do the young players look like? Obviously, there's foundational pieces. Gonzalez was good. I thought Polk had some nice moment. Ramondre is a guy they extended, and it was awesome. He's always going to be all. He's a bruising back. We'll see kind of obviously how he ages, but those guys, those core group, and then who's the coach, and then obviously who's Drake Maye, right? So we don't know who Drake Maye is yet. I think when he plays, we'll see a lot more high and low variance, right? I think we'll see some games of the Patriots like, oh, they snuck up on some people. Drake's hot right now. We'll get the Sam Darnold, a little Sam Darnold-ish, where it's like early on in his rookie year, it was a lot of, the Jets won this game. Wow, okay. They won to Detroit, won by 30, and then they lose to a bad team because he throws 3 picks like that. We're going to see more, but I thought you'd mentioned discipline, letting teams beat themselves. The Bengals beat themselves yesterday. I thought the Patriots played well, right? And they did some nice things. Special teams, defensively, on offense, picking up key first downs. So Ramondre one where, he's wrapped up by 3 guys, runs them over and picks up 8-9 yards to kind of almost settle that game down and clinch it. I actually thought the Patriots left some points on the board. I mentioned that 1/3 of Geno Stone. It's like, damn, they couldn't come away with 7 there. That would have been nice. But I just feel like they let the Bengals beat themselves. They said, you guys have been in turmoil. You guys kind of don't seem focused. You're going to overlook us. We're not going to make mistakes. You're going to. And the Patriots, look, they have a Seattle team coming cross country, next week.
Oh, 1 o'clock game.
And Seattle had some issues. I know they won the game on Sunday, but Denver should have been up big time early. And 1 o'clock, East Coast travel coming off that an emotional kind of home win. Oh, it's the Patriots. It's 1 week. I don't know. I don't know why you don't think the Patriots couldn't flirt with the idea of being 2-0. I don't know that they will, but I think you could flirt with it. So I think they were one of the most impressive teams yesterday, knowing there was a lot of questions about Gerard Mayo, and it's just one game. But I think if you're a Patriots fan, you say, you know what, we're going to go in every game, and we're going to be damn hard to beat. And I think that's the goal for this season.
Yeah, either I looked at the offense. Alex Van Pelt, they were gifted 3 points on the fumbled punt. Joe Cardona stuck his helmet in there, recovered the ball, didn't even attempt to to push the ball there. They just took the easy three. The other 3 scoring drives were 12 play or longer drives. That's a hard way to make your living in the National Football League. Like to sort of, again, going back to the old way of the Patriots playing defense, Belichick, like, go ahead, string together a 12-play drive. See if you can do that. We trust that eventually you're going to get into the red zone, you're going to make a mistake, and you're either going to have to
That's against a veteran quarterback. We
Yes.
usually see this against young quarterbacks with that Patriots kind of traditional last 25 years of like, you go beat us 12 straight plays on 4 or 5 drives during a game, and we'll take our loss. Happening against Joe Burrow, I know there's some Higgins, Jamar Chase stuff. By the way, Jamar, save it with it's on my coach. You haven't practiced in 6 weeks, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, no one told you not to show up.
Yeah, ridiculous.
And really bad after 2 days ago saying, I want to be the highest paid receiver in the league, not just by, I don't know. I was really bothered by that because I like Jamar a lot. I was like, dude, just take the accountability. Hey, we didn't play well. We'll be back next week. We'll get it rolling. So 100%. That was weird.
He threw a fit on the field too when they decided not to go forward with 2 minutes to go down in their own 15-yard line, and got called for being the 12th man on the field because he couldn't get himself off the field because he was too busy bitching about the play call. Cincinnati's in a little bit of a mess. We'll see if they can bounce back because there's obviously a lot of talent there, but that did not look good. I thought the game of the week we said coming into the week was Lions-Rams, and it did not disappoint me. Game goes to overtime. Lions win the game. Will, you have been championing the cause of the Rams. I think you texted me last night. Did we just see a preview of the NFC Conference Championship game? That was a hell of a football game, and you got to take the Rams seriously. There's no question.
Yeah, Dan Campbell said after the game, he's like, dude, these guys are really good, and they play us really tough. And again, the Rams are going to have some hiccups. Puka, that's a huge concern. I mean, that knee did not look good, and It seemed like he kept trying to go, and I don't know how long he's out. Cooper Kupp looked like 2021 Cooper Kupp. The offensive line, the Rams have had a lot of injuries already, but, it feels like if they can just weather this little storm, because this is what always happens to them, that defense looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, no Aaron Donald, new coordinator, the whole 9 yards, Sean McVay's college teammate and the whole thing. Like, dude, is anyone really prepared to, go 5 quarters? Having not played the whole preseason with this young defense on the road, emotional environment. Stafford had the one mistake to Kirby Joseph, who there was a lot of back and forth with. I mean, Kirby is who he is. I don't want to go down the whole dirty player route, but there's a lot of comments around that. Stafford made the one mistake down there, cost him points. Probably should have been 10-10 or 10-6 at the half instead of 10-3. Cooper Kupp had the drop early on 4th down. It was a tough catch, but it started to look like he was running with the ball before he got there. Classic receiver, kind of mistake there. I think you leave that game feeling really good about the Lions, and I think even better about the Rams. The reason I say that is that the Rams have now gone in there. The last 2 football games they've played is arguably against the best or the second best team in the NFC in their house, both extremely high emotional roller coasters. Cooper Kupp was banged up last year. Stafford was too. This year, Puka and Stafford, et cetera. They're within a 4th down stop, right? And, they feel like they're right there. And I feel like, to me, we'll see how the Niners look tonight, but I just feel like if the Rams can stay healthy, they're battle tested, they're well coached. Stafford's a dog. Cooper Kupp is built for that type of moment. The defense looking good. And they'll get better as the year goes on now. Like, they're not going to be a unit that gets worse. They have a very young group. Verse had a sack. That's great to see. I just think that I was impressed with both teams, and I tweeted the clip out this morning. Dan Campbell, it is really cool. Like, Dan Campbell's about all these speeches. He's like, we have people in the shallow waters, right? We're gonna drown them eventually. We're gonna tread water. That's what they did last night. They kind of tread water a little bit, and at the end of the game, punched them right in the mouth in overtime. So impressed with both teams. And again, I just think I would not be shocked if we see this game again in the playoffs. I hope we do. The last 3 times they've played has been special football.
Yeah, absolutely. You're mentioning the Rams leaving points on the board. Also, the 1st and goal from the 1, and they went backwards, couple penalties, ended up having to kick a field goal. Like, that's a killer. That's your 1st and goal from the 1. You have to score a touchdown there. They don't. They have to settle for the field goal. You mentioned the injuries, not only Nakua, Avila, Noteboom. Like, they were already moving some parts around on the offensive line. They have the suspension as well to Jackson, I think, right? So they're dealing with different pieces where maybe you didn't even think that was the way it was going to start in training camp. They were making these moves a week ago, and then to have the injuries, and again, to still be competitive on the road like that, it says a hell of a lot about that football team. I want to talk to you about GameTime.co. We love watching football. Yesterday, I don't think I left the couch, but for a couple times yesterday, watching the different games and going back watching this morning. You want to have the opportunity to go see what you want when you want to see it. And Game Time has Game Time picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. They filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Will, how many times have you spent on the computer? Oh, I can't. Oh, now I got to reset the thing because that setting, I don't want the seat there, and it's over here, and there's only one seat over here, but I need four, and they're over there. It's like this makes it streamlined for you.
Yeah, this is a great time to be getting out to the ballpark. Like I mentioned, we always joke, but playoff baseball, NFL football, WNBA playoffs coming up, NBA, NHL all coming back, college football, obviously, if it applies to your neck of the woods. Unfortunately, in our neck of the woods, not quite really, as much, although my Cortland alum won 76-0, reigning national champs. So, make sure you guys using Game Time. It's fantastic. Me and Mike both love using it.
Yeah, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code, spell out. I just read the thing. CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices are guaranteed. All right, let's move on to the Texans. Colts. A lot of people think the Colts are going to be really frisky this year. They were in week one. However, they fall to the Texans at home 29-27. So many things to talk about in this game, but I just want to go. They made two massive adds to their offense, the Houston Texans did in the offseason. They signed and extended Joe Mixon, which I didn't, or traded for, and then extended Joe Mixon, which I didn't understand the extension. He rushes for 159 yards yesterday. Okay. Stephon Diggs, only 33 yards receiving, 6 catches, but 2 for touchdowns, both touchdowns that CJ Stroud threw in the game. And if they're going to get that kind of contribution, then you add it to the likes of Nico Collins, you add it to the like of Dalton Schultz, Tank Dell, and Stroud is still Stroud, 24 of 32, 234 yesterday, no picks. I mean, some people were pushing back on the idea that maybe there would be a step back this year in week one, at least offensively. Didn't look like any step back to me, Will.
Yeah, the reason to be high on the Colts was what we saw yesterday. The reason to be low on the Colts is what we saw yesterday. I think the defense has got some issues. I don't think it's a high-powered offense, but at home, they got run over a little bit. Gus Bradley, again, is who he is. I think Latu's going to be a really good player, and all that stuff's great. But they got run over a little bit yesterday, and it's just, again, it's a good unit. It's just not a special unit. So the offense is going to have to play a little bit more mistake-free. And I thought Richardson made probably the throw of the year already. A couple of the throws were fantastic. He did miss A.D. Mitchell on almost an easier, seam ball, but him and Pierce, and Mitchell just made some special plays down the field. Richardson was awesome running the football on that fourth down. Jason McCourty pointed out in the broadcast, it was the classic, no, oh my God, yes, type of play and all that stuff. So Richardson was special. But again, he made a couple mistakes. That interception was killer. The interesting thing from the Texans' perspective, Stroud made 2 plays yesterday that concerned me and that got wiped off the board for the Colts. He threw one away under pressure, and that should have been picked. It was a really bad decision. The interception he had scrambling out to the right, both times scrambling out to the right. He was like 1 for 3, right? He had the one over the middle that everyone talks about to Nico. Nico Collins likes playing the Colts, man. My God.
Yeah, he does.
He dominates them. But Stroud, Kenny Moore got called for holding there, but that's a horrible decision down the goal line. That flipped the game. The Texans go in and score there, and it felt like they kind of pulled away. And as you mentioned, I mentioned he scrambled out to the right under pressure. The one thing I just with CJ is he's so damn good from the pocket. He makes good plays outside the pocket, but there are some mistakes in there. You can force some mistakes. So I'd like to see him kind of be a little more cautious with the football there, just because a divisional game, one of those goes the other way. We might be talking about a different result this morning. Again, I just feel like if you're the Colts, you're like, man, if we can just get Richardson more and more reps, just keep him healthy. That special player that's in there, that high variance I'd mentioned with Drake Maye, Richardson might be the most physically gifted player in the league at any position right now. I don't know, maybe there's other guys and we can debate that, but athletically, it's just 10 out of 10 freak. And we saw some of it yesterday. Again, the refinement, this guy's I think he's had 18 starts since high school. So it's going to be growing pains. But again, I think if you're high on the Colts, the way I was, you feel good today. And if you're high on the Texans, you feel damn good as well, because those guys are rolling.
Yeah. One thing I would point out, well, a couple things I'd point out about the Colts. They got 27 tackles from their safeties, Cross and Blackman. That's never a good sign, right? You never want to have your safeties that involved in that part of the game. And only 3 yards per carry for Jonathan Taylor, 16 rushes, 48 yards. They had a bounce back year with their offensive line. They've invested a lot of money in that. They feel like that's one of the better units in the league. They got to do better than that with Jonathan Taylor, because I think we all look at it like that'll take some of the pressure off Anthony Richardson having to do everything. And yesterday it felt like he kind of had to do everything. How about Miami at home over the Jags 2017? The Jags were up 17-7, looked to be in decent control of the football game, and then Tyreek Hill strikes, as he often does. The 80-yard touchdown was absurd because it didn't look like he had the angle to get past him. Then it didn't look like he was going to stay in bounds, and he does both, and that's why you're paying that guy whatever it is, $90 million guaranteed on his new deal to just, be a difference maker. And to this point, that fella has not slowed down, even with all the stuff that went on before the game that I don't really want to get into. We're talking football here, but like there was a distraction there, and it didn't affect him one bit.
Yeah, the play of the game, and again, people want to talk about this because Tyreek will be the news for a lot of different reasons, seemingly always in the news off the field. Interesting enough, but some of the comments. Get a towel, guys. We don't even know what happened officially yet. Let's just maybe wait and see what actually physically happened before making our free Tyreek or free the police, whatever it is. Just let's pay attention to football here. The Dolphins, I thought, were pretty damn bad through like 2.5, 3 quarters. 17-7, Jaguars driving. I thought they were left some points out there. A throw from Trevor Lawrence to Brian Thomas, one of the throws of the weekend. Jalen Ramsey, they were picking on early in the game. He played better as the game went on, but the highest paid NFL corner was getting picked on a little bit.
Yep.
Jaguars driving, 17-7. Pretty clear it's going to be a touchdown for Travis Etienne. I thought the game was over. Javon Holland, maybe the play of the day. Full punch. He hit the celebration after, punches the ball out. Miami goes right down the touchdown of Tyreek, 17-14, and it felt over. It felt like this is over. All of a sudden, Miami's defensive line started getting a lot of pressure. Miami started running the rock really well. Alec Ingold, A-Chain, Mostert started really getting involved. Jeff Wilson had a really impressive carry. Like, they started physically taking the football game over, and it felt like Tua's numbers were decent. I didn't feel like he was particularly good yesterday. I felt like he took a couple bad sacks, one that knocked him out of field goal range. Overall, I just take away from that game, Jacksonville kind of feels like who we thought, where like there's moments where you go, oh, okay. Yeah. And other moments
I can see them in the playoffs, absolutely.
Yeah, the other moments you're like, oh, that was nasty. And then Miami is kind of who we thought they were too. I thought physically up front they struggled at points, and then physically up front they were really good at points. And Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and Tua and A-Chain, like when they're rolling, they're good. And then when they're not, like that offense looks pretty brutal. So really huge win for Miami, though, in reality, because going into 0-1 against Buffalo, which would have been 2 conference games, teams you potentially could be competing with for playoff spots, losing those head-to-heads would have been bad. Good for Miami to get out of there with a victory. And again, tough loss for Jacksonville. I feel like they would have been up 24-7 on the road. You would have felt pretty damn good about getting that done, and they're not able to do so.
Yeah, a couple of things, in terms of Miami. You mentioned there was a period where they did sort of physically start to run the ball effectively, but generally not great. 10 quarterback pressures. And again, some of those fall on the quarterback, but I don't love that offensive line. A lot of changes to that offensive line. Not a lot of changes. Brewer, the big change, but basically like, we're just going to run some of these guys back and see what happens. And it wasn't great. They escaped with a win, but there's a lot that they have to work on. Speaking of a lot that they have to work on, Minnesota stomps the Giants 28-6. And, you'd want to start with Sam Darnold here, but I can't get over how bad the Giants looked. And we talked about what was their ceiling, what was their floor. Could the floor just, rot out from underneath them and they crash and burn? Daboll takes over the play calling. They look like the same offense that they've been, because the trigger man, Daniel Jones, looks like a lost soul. 2 interceptions, a pick 6, not playing with any kind of confidence whatsoever. And like, I felt like Daboll, who I believe is a really smart offensive mind, is coaching with one hand tied behind his back, because that quarterback is not trustworthy at this point. And I don't know how you change that in the season.
Yeah. The questions with the Giants coming in, quarterback, secondary, in specific, it's kind of what we saw yesterday. I just feel like, I mean, look, they only got the 3 points realistically because, the first one's a fumble on 3rd and 15 from CJ Ham, which is like, you can't do that, man. Like
Right.
it's a 6-yard game, wrap up the football. So I thought the Vikings were good. They talked a lot of trash going in the game. They backed it up. I thought the most damning part of this whole game, not just Daniel Jones, because look, throwing a screen, the smoke screen like that, excuse me, a smoke screen pick six, Van Ginkel, a guy we highlighted in the preview. Jefferson, we highlighted, obviously, in the defense, the additions, Brian Flores, all that stuff. With all the grain of salt, Kevin O'Connell, after the game, this is being recorded, right? It's on the team account. This isn't a surprise. We were more prepared. We were better conditioned. We were able to handle adversity. We outplayed them. We were more physical. Those are his words. And I'm the leader of the Kevin O'Connell fan club. I mean, that's damning words. You do not hear that a lot from a head coach, especially in a public setting like that. Well, public, private, whatever you want to call it. He's basically saying, we're not only better than them on the field, we were more well coached, and we wanted to come in and break you, and we did it early on. Mm-hmm. I just felt like Jones looks like a lost cause. I don't remember him being this bad.
No,
I don't know what's happened the last
2 years ago. He was a
competent, solid, middle of the road.
15, 16, 17th best quarterback in the league, which, again, you can get to the playoffs and win a playoff game with, which they did.
Used his legs well, was able to make some decisions, could throw over the middle decently well, again, would make mistakes and maybe fumble. But, he's a guy who's put up decent numbers in the NFL at times, right? He's a lot of turnovers, but 24 touchdowns, I believe, as a rookie. This is not a guy who's, always been this bad, and he just looks like a shell of himself. Confidence does not seem there. Giants 2 years in a row getting boat raced at home on home openers is not a good look. And I just felt like Sam Darnold was exactly what they need him to be this year. Again, they paid the pick late, but started the game, I think, 15-17 for 180 and 2 touchdowns. The deep ball looked really nice out of his hand. Commanded the offense, mistake-free, generally speaking. Had the one mistake, as I mentioned, but touchdown drives, efficient. Can he just stay within himself a little bit, trust his playmakers for longer than a 2 or 3 week stretch? And Minnesota could be frisky. Again, defensively, they're going to be stout. O'Connell is going to be able to scheme them open. Jefferson's arguably one of the 3 or 4 best players in the league at any position. Mm-hmm. So, again, I know it's a bad Giants team, but I feel like if you're Minnesota, you're going, oof, deep breath, And like I said, Aaron Jones looks really good, which is impressive. Van Ginkel, all their offseason additions came in and made impact. So again, I know it's the Giants and whatever, but if you're a Giants fan, you are like, man, there's a reason why this team went out and did everything they damn could to get a quarterback, and then see Saquon do what he did on Friday night, and the way Daniel Jones looked on Sunday was just a really big gut punch.
Yeah, we never got in the hard knocks. We never got their feel for J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix. Those two things could be, hey, we all believe Neighbors is a stud, but it's not going to matter if you don't have anyone to throw the football to him. And I wonder now, whatever, we'll see down the line if Daniel continues to play this way, if they don't look back and say, why didn't we do that? They didn't. They lose 28-6, and now the heat is it's on the front burner. It's boiling, and they're going to have to answer quickly. The Buffalo Bills, talk about a tale of two halves. They were getting absolutely their ass kicked, which we talked about on this pod on Friday, where I said, look, if you're going to catch them at any point this year, you got to do it early, right? And they were a mess. Kyler Murray looked great in that offense. They were controlling the clock. I think I looked up at one point, it was 2 minutes left in the first half, and Josh Allen had 2 pass attempts.
He was 2 for 2 for 37 yards.
Because Arizona was just controlling the clock, and then it turns for him, and it turns because Josh Allen is a freak. I tweeted it out yesterday, whatever you want to call it nowadays, X'd it out, that he is the most fun player in the league to watch, in my opinion. And it can be a roller coaster. We see that cowboy quarterback sometimes where, why did you do that? You've been in the league long enough not to do that. But running over dudes, hurdling guys, making ridiculous throws, trusting his receivers, which I think we all looked at this like there's more on him than ever without Stephon Diggs there. And you look at what he was able to do. Keon Coleman ends up as their leading receiver, 4 catches, 51 yards. I had Dalton Kincaid as someone who I think could catch 100 passes in this league. He was targeted just twice in the game, had 1 catch, and they won the football game. So it's going to be growing pains with that defense in particular, trying to figure that thing out, and offensively, again, trying to figure out I'm knocking the microphone, trying to figure out what they are offensively and who they can rely on. But I thought that was a hell of an opening win considering how it started for them, without question.
Cam Lewis was awesome yesterday. Shout out to him. I thought he was really good. Josh Allen was special yesterday. And I think my reason for optimism and reason for fear with the Bills is they are so damn reliant on Josh Allen to be MVP special Josh Allen. And he's a really good running back in addition to being a really good quarterback. And he's awesome. And he's going to be a guy that's going to get MVP conversation all year. And there's going to be a big narrative with that. And the people in Buffalo are starting early. The four total touchdowns. I feel like, though, the defense was pretty concerning. And Arizona is a team that I know has some talent. I thought McBride had some nice plays. And again, looking back at it, I watched the game back this morning. I feel like maybe I overstated how good he was being, just in terms of there were a lot of 5-6 yard checkdowns. I feel like if you're a Cardinals fan, you're kind of kicking yourself this morning. You're like, man, we not only we have this team up, we make the comeback, we get the stop we need, have Marvin Harrison running wide open down the sideline, and not getting him involved yesterday was
I didn't get that
weird.
at all.
The only thing with Kyler that I thought he was a lot of what made Kyler really good. The arm's really good, the athleticism, the extending plays. The height is a problem at times, and you can see it. It's like he's got to break the pocket to fully see what's going on. Didn't like the play call on fourth down at all. Game on the line, you're just throwing a deep ball like that. I don't know. I didn't fully understand that. But again, I think if you're Buffalo, you're leaving that game going, we know what we already knew, which is Josh Allen's our awesome. Iron Man, Hulk, a superhero, whatever you want to call him. I just feel like giving up 28 at home, it could have been far more. Feels like if we're giving up that to Arizona in September, what are we going to look like against we'll see with Miami this week. I just felt like that was one of those games where you leave. I don't feel like Bills or Dolphins fans specifically of the games we've talked about are leaving the game going we feel great. I just think you're got out of there with a win. We escaped a major loss here. Now let's get ready for a division rival we think we're going to compete with for a division title.
Look, I keep pounding this. I'm telling you, I think that they are going to be much like last year. I think we're going to get to a point, 9, 10, 11 games in, you're going to go, are the Bills even going to make the playoffs? They're 500, one game under 500? Because I think they have to figure this part out. You can't lose Milano, Hyde, Poyer, even if Poyer and Hyde weren't the same players anymore. You can't lose those guys, then lose Milano and what he means to the front seven and the communication, how it all ties together, and expect that it's going to go smoothly. One good bit of news for them defensively, Greg Rousseau, 3 sacks. Greg Rousseau, if you've never seen him in person, Pats fans will know his build is like Willie McGinnis. He's got these ridiculously long arms. He's completely jacked. He's a freak show. When you look at him, you're like, God, that guy, he should be illegal. 3 sacks and, sets a good edge on defense. He's someone that I keep waiting for him to take the next step. Maybe that's what he did in this one. All right, we want to bring you Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, including the two of us, including me, who won some money in Prize Picks yesterday. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. I'll just tell you, Myles Garrett, more sacks. It was 0.75. I took the more sacks, and there was a bonus on that. Paired it with Jaden Daniels, total touchdowns, more than 1.5 touchdowns. Money in Mikey's pocket, and we like that. So download the Prize Pick app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks run the game. And all right, so let's get to there was a 3-pack, if you will, of games that I don't want to spend too much time on. Chargers beat the Raiders. Saints absolutely demolished the Panthers. And the Cowboys stomp all over the Browns. The Browns could not protect Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson did not play well. The Panthers are a hot mess, and Derek Brown may be lost for the season. We're finding out. We're taping this here late Monday morning, early Monday afternoon with a knee injury. He could be done for the year, so that's one of their 2 or 3 best players. Could be Gonzo. And the Chargers just physically overwhelmed what I think is a very poorly coached Las Vegas Raiders team.
Yeah, I'll just hit it all quickly. Kind of same agreement. The Chargers are who we thought they were. Solid defense, play really hard, well-disciplined, can run the piss out of the football. Herbert's really good, and the weapons are pretty bad. Outside of McConkey, you don't really trust anybody entirely there. the Raiders Minshew looked horrible. I just don't think.
But he completed 75% of his passes, or whatever it was.
He threw one back that cost him 7 points. So I'll live to fight another day with that one. The Cowboys weren't very good yesterday offensively. CeeDee Lamb was special. Dak wasn't great. He had the one really nice throw, I thought, on the third down. Shout out to Tom Brady being much like rookie Tom Brady early on in his career, more than year 10 or 12 Tom Brady. He'll get better, but he struggled yesterday in the booth. Big time.
He was no Colt McCoy, though. I don't know if you saw Colorado, Nebraska, but Colt had a tough
Colt had a rough
day.
He was maybe reconsidering retiring.
Yes, can I come back now?
The Browns are going to probably end up changing quarterbacks at some point this year. I mean, the Watson thing is hard to come back from, and he looks disinterested. Doesn't look like the same player. And then lastly, I don't know. I look at some of these, the way we kind of wrapped up, these teams who we are who they thought they were. The Panthers might go 0-17. I mean, the Bryce Young thing is really concerning. Canales, you expected it's only week 1 with him, but I actually thought he looked just as bad as he did last year, and they've added some weapons here, and New Orleans isn't very good, and it got messy quickly. J.C. Horn's a guy I love. I've been a big J.C. Horn fan. I mean, give 3 touchdowns yesterday against Derek Carr. It's bad. Again, I'll kind of have a better judge on who Dallas, who the Chargers, and who New Orleans is next week. The other 3 teams, yikes.
Yeah, quickly too. Atlanta, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wins the game. Kirk Cousins. They didn't trust Kirk Cousins to move, and we shouldn't be surprised by this. It's less than a year removed from the torn Achilles. He did not play in the preseason, and my immediate thought was, Will, you drafted Michael Penix. How long do you – and look, it's one game. I understand the big picture and how much money they gave to Kirk, but, you also got to win now. That team is built to win the division this year. It would be a disappointment, I think, for everyone in Atlanta, including the owner, Arthur Blank, that if they don't, I mean, Kirk was a statue back there. And TJ Watt had 3 sacks, only 1 counted because the refs got him for offsides a couple times, although, as he mentioned, I think in the postgame, one of them, the ref said, I think we screwed that one up. But that was kind of ugly to watch.
Yeah, TJ Watt was the best player in the NFL yesterday. I think he's the early favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. I'll just say this about Atlanta. The one thing is Penix stands still a lot too. They're going to have to figure out a way to – this offensive line's pretty good. They're going to have to figure out a way to protect these guys. They didn't look a whole lot different than they did last year.
Right. And
that's concerning to me. It's only 1 week, but defensively they were stout. They made some plays. They held the Steelers pretty much down the whole game. Fields was pretty awful. But I don't know, man. 10 points at home. I know the Steelers defense is good, but Kirk didn't look great. It'll be interesting to see. And again, this will transition to the Rodgers thing. I'm interested to see what Rodgers looks like versus Kirk. Different timelines, different Achilles surgery. J.K. Dobbins had the same Achilles surgery as Rodgers, and Dobbins looked awesome. So I'm just curious, just from a medical perspective, what that's going to look like. And I just feel like Pittsburgh's a team that we kind of are who they expected. Again, a lot of these teams kind of were what they were. Atlanta was disappointing for sure. Some other teams were kind of fluctuated, but this another game that felt like they are who they are. And the reason I'm curious is going to be we are who they thought they were. Is Jets-Niners is 2 of the 5 best rosters on paper, maybe in the league. Obviously, all eyes are on Rodgers. What's he going to look like? What are the Jets going to look like? There's been a lot of talk for basically 12, 16 months-ish about what this team's going to look like. We'll finally, hopefully, get to see it tonight. I think there's going to be some hiccups early on with the Jets offense. I think they're going to be good at points. We're going to see vintage Rodgers. Other points, you're going to go, ooh, that was a little rusty, et cetera. The Niners, the question mark for me of teams coming off that Super Bowl hangover. This is another Super Bowl hangover for them. This is a tumultuous offseason. Brandon Ayuk's going to be limited. McCaffrey's got a calf and ankle, which is really concerning to me. Right. Unfortunately, I really hope this doesn't happen. I saw this with Rodgers last year where it was, it's an ankle and it's a calf, and then all of a sudden the Achilles pops. So you really hope they monitor him because they need him. I think we're due for a 20-17 rock fight of just massive hits, smash mouth football. Both teams are going to try to establish a physical tone early on. I'm probably going to lean Niners win 2017, but if it's the opposite and the Jets win 2017, we're going to have a lot of conversations on Monday of like, or Tuesday or whatever show of like, can the Jets go 5-0 here into Buffalo? Like that's what I'm feeling like a little bit.
Yeah, I think when I projected this thing out, I had them getting off to a very strong start. The 49ers thing is interesting to me because we just, and look, to a different degree, but we just saw this with Cincinnati, right? Where your best player, one of your best players, is doing the hold-in thing and isn't happy. And, both Ayuk and Williams were in that camp. Well, I mean, Williams didn't show up. He was a holdout. Ayuk was the hold-in. Chase did not make much of an impact yesterday. Christian Gonzalez shadowed him on 20 of, I think, his 28 snaps, 5 catches, but it was just like it was a nothing performance. As we mentioned earlier, his attitude was crazy. Like, is Ayuk going to get frustrated if he's not getting the ball early? Like, that's the ego of the wide receiver thing. And look, they said full workload for Trent Williams, right? He's going to play. He's going to play from snap one, but we'll see how it goes. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but I'm always leery of guys that do not practice football then going to play football. It's an entirely different thing. It's your body gets tested in ways that it wouldn't when you're running. You can run in pads, you can do all these things, but when you're actually getting hit, leaned on, etc., fatigue sets in. Then we'll see what happens.
The Jets had their hardest camp they've had in easily 10 years in terms of rep count. You wonder how that's going to play into it. We saw it late last night with Lions-Rams. The Niners obviously have felt.
Saw with Patriots. Patriots did the same thing. Mayo gave them, that was by far and away the most physical camp they've had in God knows how long, 5-6 years.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this game. Obviously, nerves a little bit, but at the same time, I think we're due for a really physical game. And again, this is a matchup. Maybe we'll see it again at the end of the year if things go the way for both these teams. That's their plans to be again. A lot of storylines in this one, but obviously exciting, and it should be a nice wrap up to what's been an absolutely unbelievable week one.
Let me hit you with one last question before we sign off here, just about sort of the challenge and that the Shanahan offense presents to a defense that, look, we all agree this is on paper, it's a top 5 defense. Could be even better than that. They could be the top defense. A lot of talent. There are some wild guys on that defense, Quincy Williams being one of them. I feel like there's a lot of movement, crossers, things that challenge your eyes. How do you feel like what you've seen from the Jets in the past year or two will allow them to stand up to what they're going to see tonight?
Yeah, you'll see a little bit of Sauce Gardner travel, I think, at points with Ayuk to try to get in some kind of stuff. I think you'll see Quincy blitz at times. I think you'll see the Jets use 3 safeties. They like doing that. They like playing a lot of dime personnel with Michael Carter, Ashton Davis, Chuck Clark, Tony Adams, Sauce, and DJ Reed all on the field at once because they trust Quincy can run with anybody. I will see how they tackle. I think the biggest key for the Jets tonight, you mentioned CJ Mosley, getting them organized, getting them in the right spot, making sure Quincy specifically is kind of a targeted missile, for lack of a better term. Be interested to see if you see him on kickoff as the kicker tonight. So just be interested to see. Peter Schrager dropped a nugget about that a couple weeks ago. Interested to see what happens. And the Jets put Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson back there to return kicks at any point. But yeah, I think they'll do a lot of that. They'll sit in a lot of quarters, a lot of cover 3. They'll kind of roll some different coverages. And I think at the end of the day, the Jets' biggest key tonight, can you tackle efficiently in space, specifically McCaffrey and Debo? If you do that, you probably end up winning the football game. If you don't tackle well in space, and Debo gets loose for 1, McCaffrey gets loose for 1 or 2, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, I'm curious too if they go with the 6 DBs a lot. If Kyle just says, all right, we're just going to hand it off. We're going to hand it off. We're going to make you come up and stop the run game and try to get you out of that if you don't want to counter it. All right, well, that was a lot of fun. Week 1, almost in the books. Great game tonight. Could have arguably been the game of the week. I think the Detroit Lions Rams game was right there as well. We appreciate you listening. Tell your friends, like, subscribe, leave good reviews so we can keep building the brand. We appreciate all of you that got to this point. Nice, tidy 44 minutes. Will, we did what we
finally did it.
To do. Yeah, we did it. Hey, we said we were going to refine this thing. We'll get better and better, and we appreciate you guys coming along for the ride with us. We'll see you on Friday.
It is caught! Touchdown! The New England Patriots select Drake